So I was getting all these messages on LinkedIn. People were congratulating me on my 10-year anniversary on one of my businesses that I started, and it had me thinking. It's been over 6 years now since I quit my job and became a full-time entrepreneur. But when I started thinking about it, I realized that I could have become a full-time entrepreneur much sooner. I worked at a job for 3.5 years while I built my businesses on the side, and every single year I would tell myself that this is going to be the year that I quit my job and go full-time. And every single year I would sell myself on a really good excuse as to why I should stay at the job and why I shouldn't quit. I always had all these good excuses. Oh, the security of the job, a steady paycheck, retirement, benefits. But there really is no security in unhappiness, and I was very unhappy because I wasn't following my heart. I wasn't following my dreams. And as I was building my business became more and more successful. And it got to the point where I was actually losing money by staying at the job because of how much business I had to turn away. And I remember month after month, year after year, it was literally insane. It didn't make any sense. I was losing money, but I was so paralyzed by fear that I couldn't make the decision to just go for it. And I would always say, this is going to be the month that I'm going to quit. Today is going to be the day that I'm going to put in my 2 weeks notice. But then, no, not today. I can't today. My boss is busy. I don't want to bother him. Next week would be better. I think I just need to save up a little bit more money first. And I always had these great excuses. And then I remember one day I was on my lunch break and my dad called me and he asked me, so are you going to put in your 2 weeks notice today? He knew how bad I wanted to quit my job, and I said, no, not today. My boss is on the phone and he's been really stressed out today. Maybe tomorrow though. And he said, well, how about it when he gets off the phone? And I said, well, I actually think I'm not ready yet. I just need to save a little bit more money and, have a mortgage to pay and I have bills to pay. And, what if it just doesn't work out? What if I quit too soon and I don't, make enough money and I end up losing everything? And I'll never forget what he said back to me. He said, what if it does work out? What if you do succeed? See, up until that point, I had always focused on things not working out, on failing, on being embarrassed, and having to go find a job again. See, that's the funny thing about humans is that 80% of our thoughts are negative by nature. We're always focused on, what if things don't work out? What if I fail? I remember one time hearing about this concentration camp in which they would offer certain prisoners a choice of entering through one of two doors. One door led to certain death by firing squad, and the second door, they were told, led to unknown horrors. And the prisoners always ended up choosing the first door, certain death. But the interesting thing is that the second door actually led to freedom. It was actually an exit that they could take to leave. But the people, they knew that they would never take that door though, because that's just the way humans naturally are. They would rather face known pain than that of which is unknown. That is exactly why people stay in relationships they're miserable in, because the thought of leaving is scary. It's unknown. What if you're lonely? What if you're even more unhappy? What if? Whereas, at least you know what to expect in this miserable relationship if you stay. At least you know the abuse that is coming. At least it's familiar. And so after I got off the phone with my dad, I started to focus on, what my life would look like if I did succeed, the freedom that I would have, the happiness that I would have. And in that moment, my mindset shifted and I started to believe in myself. And that was the day that I quit my job. And I think about it sometimes that, if on that day I didn't put in my 2 weeks notice, I may very well still be working there to this day, letting year by year go by where I continue to let fear get the best of me. And, so I say to you, whatever dream it is that you have in your life that you want to do, you have to believe in yourself. Don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid not to try. And ask yourself, what if things do work out? What if you do succeed?